guys, welcome back to Knitting Catalog. I'm happy to be in your presence today. I want to show you how to write with Sliver Reed knitting machine or seam manual. You can still do this method on a brother knitting machine as well. It's just like manual by not using punch card mechanism in your machine. You just want to go straight and knit it manually. So I have Sliver Reed knitting machine in my present just now, and I've knitted some few rows right now, and I have my graph already what I want to write. This is 50 and you are seeing front. So here is, row 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5, and this area is needle area, and I'm going to use 5 needles here as well, and 5 needle for the number 0. So I'm going to like to make this figure a little bit bigger, so I'm going to increase the row, like knitting row 1 twice, knitting row 2 twice, knitting row 3 twice, row 4 twice, and 5 twice, making 10 row altogether. And here is needles, so I'm going to times this needle 2 by 2, like needle 1 is going to be 2, and needle 2 is going to be 2, needle 3 2 till 4. So I'm going to have 10 needles here, and this space is for gapping the numbers, and here too I'm going to have 10 needle to work out number 0. So right now, at your carriage, on silver reel, you have to put your carriage on hold. On this carriage, on this silver reel knitting machine, this is hold of it right now, in which this other way is the hold of the other brand of silver reel knitting machine. So you can see it right here, guys. So this is the back to this is the hold of this. So I'm going to put my carriage on hold, in which I just did. This is plain knitting and this is on hold, so it will be on hold permanently. And I filled the second yarn to my antenna right now. You can see it is in my antenna, and the right up yarn, this is what I'm going to use to write, and is double yarn, just to still make sure that I have a bigger number as I'm writing on this. This is single yarn. So guys, let's see how we can do this. So I'm going to go ahead to row 1 and bring out my needles the way I want it. And as I earlier said on the other video, this is front. I'm going to turn my work back to back, in which 0 is the first number and 5 is the second number. It's turning all the other side away. So I'm going to start from here and select my needle. As I earlier said, this one represents 2. So I'm going to go ahead and bring number 1 needle out, in which is 2, 3 is 2, 2. This is 10 needle for 5. When you times it, it will be 10 needle. Then I'm going to give 2 gap, or let me make it 3 needles gap at this place right now. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's it. This is the total needle that I'm going to use to work right now. So I'm going to go to the reading right now. The row 1 said all the 10 needle is going to be at work. I'm going to work with all the 10 needle. Then here at the 0, I'm going to push back 2 and leave 6 needles. Then I'm push back 2. So let's go straight. This is all the needles for number 5. Then I'm going to push back this. It's not going to work. Then I'm going to push back this. So the most important thing on knitting manually is to fix your carriage on hold. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and knit right now. So you are going to knit it manually. Like, I'm going to push my needle out. My needle is on D position on silver bed. Then close the needle and push it by knitting it. So the second needle, in which is part two. So I'm going to, this is latches, guys. So I'm going to close it after fixing the yarn at the mouth, at the hook of the needle. Then I close the latches and push it back to B position. Then gently drag the yarn, drag it and leave it. Make sure your stitches are equal, not one is tight. Make sure your stitches are equal. So don't make it tight. Maybe one needle is tight and the other is loose. So this is what I'm going to do throughout the writing. So dragging it and using your hand to knit properly. So push it out, then drag the yarn gently, push the needle out, fix the yarn at the hook, push it back to B position. Then that's it. So I'm going to go like gapping this. So this is 0. The selection of 0 is 6 needle. So go like this and drag. Then this. Sorry about that. Then this. So knitting row 1 right now, guys. I'm going to push the right up needles out to D position, putting them to D position on Sliver Reed knitting machine, and you can see it, pushing the needle back to D position, making them to be on hold. Then I'm going to knit row 1 because already I've knit row 1 of the right up. So I'm going to knit back the background color. So guys, you need to hang some weight on it. Then, as I earlier said, that your carriage have to be on hold. So I'm going to go, and you can at least put your yarn on your antenna, the background color on your antenna. So I'm going to go 1 row right now, and when you put needle on hold, this is not going to work. So the background color is going to knit right now. So that's it. So guys, we are going back to row 1 because I want to make sure the size of the lettering is big. So I'm going to repeat row 1 back right now. So I don't need to select any needle. It's just to knit up the needles on E position, on hold on. So I'm going to knit it back manually. So that's it. Repeating it, it's just the same thing that when you put your punch card on large, it repeats what is in the previous row you have knitted. So same thing by repeating same selection of needle, just to double the rows. So it's what I'm doing now, knitting it manually. So you can see, make sure your stitches is equal. So the end of second row right now, and I'm going to push them on hold. So that's it. Then I'm going to knit 1 row of the background color. So guys, the row 1 is being knitted twice right now. So I want to call your attention to the background color. You know, when you are knitting the background color with your carriage, the yarn is going to lay over the needles that are on hold, the needles that you are using to write, to do the write up. So the yarn is going to lay over it, on top of it, so it's normal. So don't allow it to go down manually. Maybe you just feel like, it's not okay like this, let me push it down. Just allow it to lay just like this, is normal. So right now I'm going to check row 2 and see what I have, the order that I have. Now it's saying I'm going to remove this 3 needle, in which is 6, and work with 4 needles here. And here is what I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and select what I supposed to do. So if you are going to remove this, you don't need to use your picker and push it back to B. Just shift it a little bit to C position. You know, I'm just going to shift it a little bit to C position, just like that. So that's how it's supposed to be. You don't need to pick your picker and start to push it back just like this. No, just leave it at C position. Then leave. This is the one I'm going to work with according to the chart right now. I'm going to work with this. So I'm going to go back to number 0 right now. It's saying I'm going to work with number 1 needle. You know, we keep 3 at the gap, so this is the 3 right now. So this is number 1 needle. I'm going to work with it. So I'm bringing it out for me to see. So I'm going to work with number 1 needle and number 2. So this is number 2 needle, this is number 1 and number 2. So I'm going to shift number 3 backward to C position, and this is number 4 needle right now here. This is it, and I'm going to bring number 5 needle out. So that's it. So what I'm going to do now, after knowing the needles I want to work with, so I'm going to take my yarn and start to knit it up manually. So I'm going to go ahead, you know, just make sure you don't take it up over the needle, you take it under the needle, and make sure you don't grab it tight. You can see the loop, you don't grab it tight. So I'm going to push it gently. So gently, and work on the next one. So after working on them, so I'm going to push them back to hold. That's it. I've worked on them, push them back to hold. Then I'm going to work with the number 0 right now. So you see, give a little allowance on it when you are working with the yarn. Then I'm going to push it back, drag a little, then on the next needle knit it up manually and push them back to hold. Don't forget to push back to hold. So this is the number 3 needle. I'm not going to work with it, it's already on C position on the bed, on the knitting bed, knitting machine bed. So I'm going to go ahead to number 4 needle and knit manually, drag, then knit this again manually. So be careful, don't allow your yarn to cut. That's it. So I'm going to push it out to D position on my bed. So that's it. I'm going to knit with carriage the background color right now, you know. So make sure everything is in order, your carriage is on hold. So I'm going to knit right now. So guys, you can see what we have. This eventually went back. Those needle that we did not want to work with that are on C position went back inside when you are knitting the background color. So right now I'm going to knitted the same order of row 2. So this is how you will continue, reading your order and be knitting them manually. And when you have the one that you don't want to work with, it's already outside that you are working with, you just push it back to C position. So I'm going to knit back the row 2 right now, like working back on the other C on it. So you can see, then push this back to E position, E position, then make sure the latches is open. So back, then push them back to E position. So you can see what we have. So I'm going to knit right now. So reading row 3 now, all the needles have to come out to work. So I'm going to push them out. That's them. They have to knit right now. So, and this of the 0 number is same order. So that's how you will continue working on this, be reading it and be knitting it up manually. So like this right now, I'm going to start from here. I'm not going to knit up here, so I'm going to drag my yarn back to this and knit it manually. So you go according to how the needles is being selected and how the rows is being faced, the direction that you are going. So I'm not going to start knitting it from here because my row is going back this way to the left side. So I've knit to the right, so I'm going back to the left. So I'm going to hold my yarn and go turn back to the left. So I'm not going to start that this is where my yarn is and I'm knitting awkwardly. So I'm going to face back just like this. So you can see this is where the yarn is. So I'm going to take it back to front because I'm moving to left side. Then I'm going to, like, you can see, and knit back because my carriage is moving back. So this yarn have to face back to where my carriage is moving to. So that's how to knit manually. You continue doing this till when you finish what you want to write on your project. You can see how it is. That's it. My yarn is facing to this side. So also the carriage is coming after finishing the write up. After finishing the rows, so my yarn is coming back that way. So make sure you put your needles on writing on hold. So that's it. So I'm going to push all of them on hold. You can see my yarn here. So the carriage is coming back to this place right now to the left. So that's it. Pushing them on hold. So I'm going to knit right now.